The Lead. Sponsored by Lavish Boutique, Lavish Coffee, Jasper Veterinary Clinic, Jasper Bone and Joint, and Carl Cannon Chevrolet Buick GMC.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Greg Tinker for The Lead, and it is my good pleasure today to have a great friend with us, Robin Conn, whom I met back in my early coaching days when Robin was here in town working for the Daily Mountain Eagle as a sports reporter and photographer. And I just want to say at the outset, he is a photographer extraordinaire, and we're going to talk some about that, and maybe even along with this article, there will be some of his award-winning shots posted. So when you're watching the interview, be sure to look at the article as well for those shots that Robin's taken across the years. Robin, welcome to the set today. Welcome to The Lead.
Well, thank you, Coach. It's my pleasure. I look forward to it.
So let's talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you went to high school, sports you were involved in as you did grow up.
Okay, I'm from Coleman. I was actually born in Flint, Michigan, but all my family was from Coleman, and we moved back there when I was 4. I went to Coleman High School, played basketball and baseball. I played, of course, after high school, I played a lot of independent travel ball, softball, baseball, and basketball. And so, but had some great coaches growing up.
A lot of experience in the sports world, so you didn't just happen to fall into this like some people do. You had an interest because you played and you knew the game.
Oh yes, and the one inspiration I had, I don't know if you know him or not, but he was sports editor at the Coleman Times when I was first started playing ball at 8. His name's Bill Shelton, and he's in the Sports Hall of Fame, Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. But Bill, I've admired him because he had a physical handicap. I want to say he had polio, or if it wasn't polio, he had some disease when he was a child, and it left him with some handicaps. And he wanted to be a sports reporter. And of course he went to I want to say he went to what was called Florence State then, got his degree. And he told me this one time too, that the publisher told him, if you want to be a sports writer, you got to learn how to drive. And so Bill like I say, some physical handicaps, he had to learn how to drive a car with the steering wheel knob on it and that kind of. So he said, when you get to where you can do that, you come see me. So long story short, he did. He got hired. He was sports editor there up until he retired. But he covered us from day one when I was like 8 years old. But I always admired him because he took his own pictures. So that just always stuck with me about photography. I guess that's how I got my early dose of that, because we were in the paper, I'd clip it out, and I still have some of those old newspaper clippings and photos that he took.
Well, so that leads us into a good segue. That's some of your interests. So talk about, you finished high school, you played some independent ball. Talk about your own journey into journalism, sports journalism, and photography.
Okay. Well, after high school, I was actually in pharmacy school at Auburn, and I had everything set up, schedule set up. All I had to do is show up on September the 15th, I think it was, but I didn't want to be a pharmacist. And I really didn't know at that time. I just didn't know, what I wanted to do. And so I dropped. I never showed up. I never went to Auburn, but I went to Wallace State, which was called Wallace Hansel then, and took business classes. And while I was in there, some of the girls I went to high school with got on the journalism staff. They were doing their first yearbook. And they asked me, said, why don't you join the staff with us? You were good in English in high school. And I said, I can write, but I don't want to be a writer, but I like taking pictures. And they said, well, we need a photographer. So I said, I'll do it. And we had a professional photographer from Coleman that had a studio who was the school photographer, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he taught me the black and white darkroom, where you develop film by hand, printed my own stuff that I'd shot, and that's how I actually got started in the photography part. But you know, I did that for say a year, and then I just decided I had all the schooling I wanted, and got a job, went to work.
Now, did you start at a Coleman paper?
Nope, I got a job at, oddly enough, over here at Dora, Alabama, at Birmingham Boat Company, and I worked for Birmingham Boat Company for 14 years. But one of the guys I worked with had went back to school to get a journalism degree, and he was working for the Daily Mountain Eagle. So one day he came into the plant, and I was there, and he brought a guy with him, and he introduced him to me, and it was the sports editor. And he said, "Hey, I understand you like to take pictures." And I said, "Oh yeah, I love it. I had some, in college I did some with a photographer, and just kind of put it on hold." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, we never have anybody that's willing to go to Auburn and take football pictures. Would you be interested?" And I'll never forget, I chuckled and I said, "Let me get this straight. You're going to send me to Auburn to shoot pictures of them playing football, and I'm going to get paid to do it too?"
Right.
And the guy said, "Yes, would you be interested?" And of course I said yes. And then the next Friday night, they wanted me to do local high school. And I had to write a game story. So I did. I had to do Carbon Hill and Phil Campbell at Phil Campbell. Got there, Carbon Hill scores first kickoff. They go down the field, score a touchdown. It's 7-0. Nobody scores another point the rest of the game.
That made your article easy, didn't
And
it?
I'm sitting there, how am I going to write a story on a 7-0 football game? But I got back to the paper, and they did, develop my film. And after I wrote my story, they called me on Monday and said, "Can you come by the office?" And I said, "Sure." And I went by there, and they said, "We don't want you." So your story was good. You covered all the points and all that, but your pictures were so good. We don't want you to write them. We want you just to go to 2 games on Friday night and get pictures. So we'll have some good pictures from 2 different games. And that's how I started. And the more as it went on, the more they got to where they would ask me, would I go cover the quarterback club and write a story, or go do some news story for them, or the Walker College going to the state basketball tournament, go do pictures for them, and kind of got my foot in the door. And it got to where more and more, finally they just wanted me to go to work full time. And I've been doing it ever since.
So you worked at the Mountain Eagle for a number of years, and then had an opportunity, if you want to say, to move up a little bit, to move to Huntsville. So talk a little bit about that transition.
Okay. Well, it actually started, I was there 6 years. It was 1995. I got a call from the Tuscaloosa News. The editor wanted to talk to me about a possible photography position there. I knew their chief photographer. And so I went down there and interviewed with them, and it came down to me and another guy that was with one of their sister papers, that they had decided to close their paper down in North Carolina. And so the publisher felt like he owed it to one that was already with them to give them that job. And I said, "Well, I totally understand." I said, "But I'm happy where I'm at the Mountain Eagle, and I wasn't looking to leave." And of course, I thanked them for the opportunity. And so 3 months later, I went on vacation, came back from vacation, and I had another message on my desk at the Mountain Eagle telling me to call the Huntsville News. The editor wanted to talk to me. So I called him and went up there and interviewed, and wanted me to be the photo manager, chief photographer there. And I said, it just, how sometimes in life something just feels right. I knew when I left the interview that this is just, I was familiar with Huntsville from playing ball there in high school, but it just felt right. So they wound up hiring me that same week. They called me back and hired me. And if you want to talk about fate, as active role in your life, I was there 3 months from September to Auburn was playing in Tampa in the Outback Bowl against Penn State. I went to cover the bowl game. I came back. When I walked in the door of the office on January the 3rd or 4th, the publisher was sitting there. They were waiting on me. I was the only one that wasn't in there on the staff. And he said, I don't know how to tell you all this, but said, we're shutting the Huntsville News down. We were owned by Newhouse Publishing, which owned the big paper, which was the Huntsville Times. And said, we're shutting this paper down. And I'm like, I've been here 3 months, and I'm fixing to move my family.
Right.
And now you're telling me you're shutting the paper down. So the next day or so, he called us in to talk to us about our future. And needless to say, there was, had a good severance package and all that, but he looked at me and he asked me, he said, have you sold your house yet? And I said, I have. I've said it's sold and I'm just waiting to move. I'm waiting for school to get out and I'll be moving in May, into May. And he grinned and he said, I've really got you in a fix, don't I? I said, well, you could say that.
Sure.
And he laughed and said, but we want you to come over here. And of course, the big paper, we owned Birmingham News and the Mobile Press Register. And the Newhouse Publishing Company owned more newspapers across the country than anybody. They were a staple. If you ever got a chance to go to work for them, to do it. So instead of coming back, I could have came back, and I did weigh that out about coming back. But to get to the big paper,
Sure.
it was just kind of a no-brainer, and I knew I liked it there, so I went to work for them, and I was with them until 2012. When they started the changeovers where everybody quit doing print every day and went totally digital.
Yeah. Good long career.
Yes, best move I ever made.
Well, in that career, no doubt, you have some favorite shots that you've taken, and we won't have time to run through all of those because you've had a career and taken that many photographs. There's a bunch. But the 2 or 3 or 4 that kind of rise to the top when you're thinking about pictures that you've taken, maybe one from earlier in your career, maybe make it decadal if you can in that sense of the word, but whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Well, the first one that'll always come to my mind was the first year that I worked at the Mountain Eagle, first Alabama-Auburn game I covered. And it was in Birmingham. And they did the guy's name, I'm pretty sure it was Harry Mose, dove over the top for the winning touchdown against Alabama. And I got the picture right when he dove over and was in midair, and they sent it in for the newspaper contest, and I won my first photo award on that picture. And so that'll always stand out. Of course, the first game, Alabama and Auburn game at Auburn in that 1989, even to this day, I gauge that crowd, how loud that was. I've covered Alabama and Miami in the Sugar Bowl, which was really loud too, but nothing has ever compared to that first meeting ever in Auburn because of all the circumstances. And of course, that the George T play where he stripped the guy, I forget who the receiver was, but when he come up from behind, took the ball away from him, that stood out, still stands out. And of course, the guys that I covered in high school here, Chad Key and Brian Deal were on that team, and so that was special. And then Cam Newton, and I've shot pictures of multiple Heisman Trophy winners through the years, and great players, great quarterbacks or great linemen, whatever. But I got the picture of what I call the Heisman moment when he, against LSU, when he broke through the line and 3 or 4 people were grabbing at him from behind and they missed him, and I just happened to be in the end zone and he was running right at me. So I followed him all the way in before he hit Peterson, the All-American defensive back, run over him. But he was just such a freak of nature. I'd never seen a quarterback that big that could move that fast, and which that stands out as one of my favorites. But a lot of high school. I loved. I go back to this a lot too. Small town high school football. I loved going to Cordova because that just where that stadium was in the
Yes.
little valley.
Yep.
And the first year I was gone, all those years Parrish was really good, and but they'd always come up just short of winning the state title. And that year I left, '95, well, lo and behold, Cordova was playing in the state championship at Cordova on a Friday night, and they were playing. I want to say it was B.B. Comer, but I may not be correct on that. But anyway, they were really good. I mean, really good, and it's like they were heavy favorites. And about the only thing that could derail them would be the weather. And I'll never forget, I sat under a tent above the stadium and watched it. It was a monsoon rain.
Yes.
And
Played
Cordova's
about 6 inches of mud that night.
and it was just a mud bath. Cordova scored early and wound up and won the game. And I was like, wow, after all this time, I finally get to come back and they won the championship. But those are the ones that stand out more the kids that you get to know, even the ones you knew in high school and you saw them go on. And it was proud because, I'll never forget this either, because after that Sugar Bowl championship when Alabama beat Miami, I ran into Brian Dill after the game. And he come up and I hugged his neck and he looked at me and he said, I know you wished I'd have went to Auburn and like that. And I said, buddy, I said, it doesn't matter where I wish you'd have went. And I said, I can't tell you how proud I am that y'all pulled this off and you did it. I said, it just speaks highly of your character. And I said, don't ever take this for granted.
Yeah.
Just remember this the rest of your life. And I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, I think about that. And I've run into him and Chad from occasion. I'll run into Chad through the years. But the high school memories, there's so many of them that you forget. And then, of course, the big stuff that you cover, you'll never forget that. But those are the ones that really stick out.
Well, and related to that, some of the places that you've gotten to go, and you've sort of hinted at that already, but, or people that you've met that you never imagined that you would actually meet in person and have a conversation with.
Oh, geez, let's see. I've been to World Series, NBA basketball. I covered John Stallworth's Hall of Fame induction at NFL Hall of Fame induction in Canton, Ohio. And John, we were there for a week. Me and the two reporters went for the week because they had all kinds of parades and, dinners you had to go to. But all the players, after the induction, because we were free of the game, then it was the induction's on Saturday. They have the football game on Monday night then. You had a day off on Sunday. And I'll never forget this, after I got all those pictures done, what a gentleman that John Stallworth was. John came over there and to me and the reporters after we were done, he said, y'all got everything you need? And I said, oh yeah, we've got it, and we're good. He said, what are y'all doing tonight? And we said, oh, nothing. We don't have anything on plan. We'll just go out and eat, And he said, I want y'all to come to, and he told us the name of this country club there in Canton. And he said, y'all be there at 6:30, and I'll be at the door waiting on you. So we load up, we go, and sure enough, we get there. And of course, he looks at me, and I've got my camera, needless to say, and he says, go put your camera up. That's the only stipulation. You're not working. You're here to enjoy. So I put the camera up when he takes us in, and it's him and Dave Casper with the Oakland Raiders that went in the same class. They were both sponsoring this party, and there was a who's who of NFL greats. Everybody on the Steelers, even coaches, everybody was there but Terry Bradshaw, and same way with the Steelers. Everybody. I mean, it was just. Terry Bradshaw
as a
was
sports
with the
guy,
Steelers,
as a kid growing up watching them, you're in hog heaven at that
I'm
point,
watching
right?
all these greats. I mean, here's Franco Harris and Casper, and then the coaches of the Oakland Raiders and just, Jack Tatum, all these guys that you saw on TV and you're just amazed. But to be as famous as they were, it was just fun to see the other side of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that assignment sticks out for that. But I've met movie stars, famous people, not just sports related. I've met famous people that you learned when you see them on camera. Sometimes they're not what they seem.
Sure.
But then other times you meet some that are so down to earth and humble that it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Goober Lindsay from Jasper, he would come home every summer while I was here, and he'd always bring another star with him usually, and I'd spend the day with him. And in fact, I've got a picture. I wish I'd have thought to bring it. I've got a picture. He came to Huntsville for he was emceeing the Alabama Music Awards that they used to induct them into a Hall of Fame. And he got me in the hotel room, and he pulled that beanie he would wear on as Gomer.
Right.
Not Gomer, Goober.
Yeah.
And he put it on my head and threw his arm around me and made a reporter take my picture with him with that. And it was just, things like that stand out.
Sure.
And there's even, I've even got a picture when they had their 50th anniversary of the show in Nashville. We went to that, and I've got a picture of what cast members came to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you meet some really good people. And then you meet some, I'm not going to call them by name, but and same with, I will call this one by name in the sports world. I can say that, let's just say I've been chewed out. Chewed out's not the word, but you can fill those blanks in some of the language that I'm talking about. But at the bowl game, I had to get a picture of Joe Paterno that we were running a story on. So I'm out there, and all they're doing, they're at practice, but before practice starts, they always stretch, and there's laying down on the ground, stretching their knees or their legs or their arms, and I'm up against a trailer where he's got a videographer up a tower filming, and I'm just shooting away. I've got this lens on about this big, a 400 millimeter lens, and I'm just shooting away, and I notice he's just screaming at somebody, and I'm like, wow, he is just undressing some poor guy, and he keeps getting closer and closer, and I'm still shooting, and he's still screaming, and so he gets so close that my lens is got him so close he can't focus anymore. So I just kind of dropped my camera, and I'm standing there, and he's still coming toward me, and I look to my left, and I look to my right, and there's nobody there but me, and I'm like, oh, me. He's me. He's been screaming at. And of course, my reporter comes over there after it's over and wants to know, what'd you do to Joe Pa? And I said, I didn't do anything but take his picture. So that was always one of those when I say you don't know what you're going to get
Sure.
when you meet them. And the other time I got chewed out by Al Kaline, famous Hall of Fame baseball player of the Detroit Tigers. That was, when I was a kid playing ball, he was my idol. I mean, we even went to Detroit to see him play when I was 13. And this man is just letting me have it at a during batting practice. Now, behind the cage, he's leaned up against the cage watching the Detroit hitters, hit. And, I'm credentialed. I'm supposed to be down there taking pictures of anybody I want to. And when I see him, I'm like, wow, there's Al Kaline. And I never got close I didn't get 10 feet, never no closer than 10 feet. I just turned the camera and took a few pictures. And that's when he undressed me. And so needless to say, it was really embarrassing because nobody knew, including my reporter, which was Todd Thompson from here. And he said, want to know, I said, I didn't do anything. Trust me, I did nothing. So after batting practice is over, I start to walk away, and I hear somebody yell at me, and I'm like, turn, and it's Kaline. Here he comes. I'm like, oh, me, I'm going to get it again. And he threw his arm around me and starts walking with me, and he says, well, I guess I owe you an apology, but he said, if you had asked me to take my picture, I would have let you. And I looked at him and I said, well, Mr. Kaline, I said, first of all, I didn't get in your space. I'm here to do pictures for the upcoming baseball season. You're a Hall of Famer down here on the playing field, which my credential says I can take pictures of anything I want to down here. And I said, and my exact words when I looked at him then, I said, and I took his arm around off my shoulder and I said, I wouldn't take your picture now if you asked me to. I said, you just ruined my childhood image of you for no reason, just for taking your picture. Mm-hmm. But cases like that, you meet so many more that are just genuine. Mm-hmm. This isn't sport. Well, it's kind of sports related. The other one that really stands out, I had to go to Nashville to the Nissan Stadium to do an interview with a reporter, mm-hmm. and I had to get the pictures, and it was Billy Graham. And I'll never forget when he walked in the room. I mean, you could just, and I get goosebumps now even thinking about it, you could just tell this guy was genuine. Mm-hmm. I mean, you knew that he's not putting on a show or anything. And I got a chance to talk to him out on the field. We went outside because he was doing he was going to have a
stadium event revival.
A revival, yeah. And he was checking out the stage and all that, and he was sitting in a golf cart. And he asked me where I was from, and I told him, and we talked probably for 10 or 15 minutes, just nicest man you'll ever want to meet. But that always stuck out. And like I say, you meet all kinds of famous people. I've done photographed 4 presidents. And so they're all different.
That's pretty good for a Coleman County boy, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And one of my other, when you're talking about people I'd met and talked to, I was lucky enough to do we did a series on the great broadcasters of college football in the South. And it was Jack Crystal from Mississippi State, Larry Munson from Georgia, and John Ward from Tennessee. And we went, got them on camp, or where they live, got them on campus. And all 3 were totally different, but just fascinating to listen to them and just pick their brain about what they had seen through the years and all that. But those are the ones that stick out the most.
Well, I hope you're archiving that somewhere, because that you've had an incredible journey, starting out where you did. I guess we could say at Wallace Hansville, yep. On the first yearbook there, to your time in Huntsville. So let's end with this, since you've had this experience. If somebody came to you and said, "Okay, Robin, I'm 20 years old. I think I want to be a photographer. What should I do?" What advice would you give to a young person starting out in the field of photography?
Well, the biggest advice I could give anybody would be, if you can find someone that's already in the business or that has been in the business and would kind of be a mentor. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many things. The thing that sports was my forte, mm-hmm. and that's where the majority of my what I call great work was done, was at the ballpark somewhere. Mm-hmm. But it all goes back to, I grew up playing ball, I knew the game. Whatever you're going to shoot, do your research. Sure. Know what you're going to do. Try to know before you get there. Mm-hmm. And but I would advise anybody to find someone, if they could, that had made a career out of it, and if they're retired or still doing it, and they'll take them under their wing. Because if it hadn't been for people that took me under their wings, I'd have never made it. Mm-hmm. And there's so much you can learn from experience. And everybody always says, "Well, you don't have enough experience." Well, how do you get experience? You got to have somebody to give that to you. Sure. But that's the easiest way to get your foot in the door. And once you get somebody that was greased to help you like that, they can open up doors for you. But it's a great career. I wouldn't take nothing from my career as a photographer.
Well, we've just scratched the surface of what you've done. One last thing, and you may not know the exact number, but do you know how many awards you've won across the years? Ballpark figure?
Last time I took account, I had won 60. And the one I always wanted to win was the Alabama Press Association Photo of the Year. And I was fortunate enough and it was in the year 2000. I was fortunate enough to win that it was for a photo I took, and it was a news photo. And this had happened in Birmingham a few weeks before I took the photo. There had been a tremendous thunderstorm that had came through Birmingham and had a lot of flooding. And a little 3-year-old child got swept into a storm drain on the street and drowned. And in Huntsville, I had a guy that worked at the paper that he got a phone call one day, and it was a lady that called and said she had saw that on the TV because it was all over the news, and said, y'all need to send a reporter. Said she called the photo and said, you need to send a reporter and a photographer over here by the city cemetery. Said, I'll show you something right here that's big enough for somebody to fall in. So we went over there, and sure enough, there was all the way, there was all 4 corners. It was that from the ground to the top of that, where the cover was to go down in there, was open. In fact, I slid right down in there and took a picture from the inside looking out, and this lady that called us had her 4-year-old son with her, and he was bent over through one of those openings looking to see what I was doing in there, and I snapped the picture to show if I can get in there as big as I am, and there's this kid, you can see the opening. And the city went out there after that paper. We ran it the next day. The city went out there the same day and sealed that up with concrete where nobody could ever fall in again. And that was called Spot News, and it won for the year 2000. And I wouldn't take nothing for that because it actually, who knows, it could have saved someone's life.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's the power of a simple picture. And I just took the time to, I think I could get in it, and I did. I just slid right down in there, and then the rest is history. But that's my favorite of all.
Sure.
That I did.
Well, because not only did you win, as you said, you protected lives in the process.
Could have saved a life in the progress.
Absolutely. Well, Robin, everybody's been signing the poster behind you, so we'd like for you to do the same thing.
Oh, I'd be glad to.
Yeah. However you want to do that.
I had a lot of good years here.
And we're glad that you did.
And I still miss Jasper.
Well, I still think of some of the photos you took, especially Walker College basketball games. There's one I have in my mind of the flag behind one of the players, and I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that was an incredible photo at the time. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I know one I bet you'll remember. I took a picture when y'all were playing in the county tournament at Walker, and one of your players, the umpire called him out on 3rd strike, and one of your players got right up in the umpire's face as the umpire, and the umpire threw him out, and he's got his finger inside the umpire's mask, and I've shot that picture. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
I must have had some sort of purposeful amnesia about that one.
Well, you had some great teams.
Yeah.
That bunch you had.
Yeah, we did. We were, back in those days, it was one and done, the first 3 rounds of baseball. If we'd have had the 3-game series like we do now, we would have done some damage along the way. But, you run into a good pitcher that first round, and we were paired up with Vestavia most of the time when they won 9 out of 10 state championships. And so we usually ended up derailed by Vestavia Hills.
But y'all had some great teams. So that, like I say, the bunch with Ken Key and Heath Burns, the Turnbow boys. Oh gosh, trying to think of some more of them that's on that team. Pitcher
Josh
Style, yeah. Well, he could bring it.
Well, he played baseball. Went to the World Series the next year in junior college out at Grand Junction with Wallace Hansville.
Yeah.
And then it ended up his career at Jack State. Of course, Ken went to Auburn, was a star player down there, got to play in the World Series. And so a lot of good players on that team for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, Coach, I miss one of the guys I really miss too. That I just loved him. Is Coach Clem.
Oh
So
yeah,
I just love going to that old gym and watching him work those players. I mean,
Sure.
he was something. Coach Clem was something else, and a great coach.
Yes.
He was a great coach.
He was a jewel for sure, and I think underappreciated on some
Yes.
level in our city. I don't think we really knew what we did have.
Yeah.
Well, Robin, so good.
Oh.
We'll have to have you back at some point and talk a little further because, as I said, we've only scratched the surface of
Oh, yeah, 'cause
of a 40-year career of taking pictures. But it's been delightful today to hear those stories and to sort of catch up a little bit with you because we haven't seen each other in person for a while. But you're a great friend and have been for a long time, and I appreciate what you've done.
Well, thank you, and hey, I appreciate you having me. I couldn't wait to get up here because it's always fun to reminisce and people, comment on your work.
Sure.
Because it's just always good. Did you like it? And like I say, we covered. I could talk to you all day about everything we covered, but I wanted to keep it sports. But
Sure.
Because I'm a sports guy. That's the deal.
Yeah, and this is kind of a sports show, so it's good that we kept
that's
it there.
great.
Well, I know that what you've seen and heard, you've enjoyed as much as I have, and I want to thank Robin for coming down from Huntsville today to be with us, and maybe we will have him on again. But for now, this is Greg Tinker for The Lead saying good afternoon.
The Lead, sponsored by Lavish Boutique, Lavish Coffee, Jasper Veterinary Clinic, Jasper Bone and Joint, and Carl Cannon Chevrolet Buick GMC.